Aloha mai kaua o DJ Mermaid keia a I ke oe ua kako ia kahiki ke hoʻolele ia keia pukana ma ka pūnai vele e nā hoa me nā lala o keia kahua lekio I lulu kala mai ia mako. No leila, he leo mahalo keia ia o ko e nā lala a I nā a ole oe he lala mai kalia pauna niho a e hui no me kako e nāna paha o ko ma hawaiipublicradio.org a mahalo nui. Aloha ahiahi kako, wauno keio, DJ Mermaid, Paige Okamura, your host, every Sunday evening here on member-supported Hawaiʻi Public Radio 1's Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi. On tonight's episode of Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi, we are celebrating Queen Lili'uokalani's birthday, that was this past Thursday on September 2nd, through her music, the music that she's written and the music that was written for her. You can find more information on tonight's show and a full set list online at hawaiipublicradio.org/Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi. We'll be right back after the news break. Opening up this episode of Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi was Liliu by the Momi Sweethearts and Uncle Johnny Kamealoha Almeida. I'm DJ Mermaid, Paige Okamura, your host every Sunday evening from 6 to 7 p.m. In tonight's episode of Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi, we are celebrating the birthday of Queen Lili'uokalani, the last reigning monarch of the Hawaiian Kingdom. Now, there are a lot of facts that I could tell you throughout this show, but they're also facts that you can also find out on your own. They're so easily accessible these days. You could do a very quick Google search, or you could read Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen. But tonight, I really want to take a look at the Queen through the music that she wrote and the music that was written for her, because she was an expert and extremely accomplished hakumele, a composer. So I want to take a look at the mele tonight. But Queen Lili'uokalani was born on September 2nd, 1838. Born Liliu Loloku Walania Kamakahi to Kiohoka Lole and Kapa'akea, and then Hanai to Abner Paki and Konia. As I'm sure all of you Kamehameha School grads can tell me all about all of those names. But tonight is about the music of the Queen, and Lili'u is a song that's very well known to be for the Queen. And one thing that's common, besides the fact that this is the first song so many young hula dancers learn when they're very little, is that this mele was not written originally for her. And there are two different versions, or two different moʻolelo that I've heard about that song. The one that I'm most familiar with is that it was originally Kina'ue, and then the Ohana, and Kina'u's Ohana was approached and asked if they could adopt that mele and put Lili'u's name in it. And they approved another version of that. The origin of that mele is that it's a chant by Anton Kau'o for Kapi'olani. It was originally Kapi'olani. And I'm not even going to tell you that either one is wrong, because that's the beauty of Hawaiian music and Hawaiian culture and history. Sometimes there are two parallel stories. Sometimes there are two parallel truths. And so whether you are familiar with the Kina'ue version of the moʻolelo or the Kapi'olani version, the one thing that is true there is that it was not originally written for Lili'u. So we're going to hear that song one more time in a very different fashion, because another remarkable thing about that mele for me and Lili'u is that it has been adapted. It still lives on today as a hula that's performed in an olapa style, in a chant style, but it's also been jazzed up and sung, and it's all in honor of the Queen. So coming up next is Jesse Kalima and his group with Lili'u into the Hui Ohana, singing the mele ma'i, or the procreation song for Lili'u, called Anapau. You can find a full set list online at our website at hawaiipublicradio.org/Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi.
Kamakahi no veluana, ko papalina e kukuana, ko makahi no veluana, ko papalina e kukuana, ko makahi no veluana, ko papalina e kukuana. Aina ia mai ana ka puana la Liliu e no honani mai Ea 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 Aina ia mai ana ka puana E Liliu e no honani mai Aina ia mai ana ka puana E Liliu e no honani mai Aina ia mai ana ka puana E Liliu e no honani mai
Listening to the Hui Ohana with a mele ma'i or procreation chant that has become a song. I mean, it's a mele at the end of the day called Anapau. That's the name of her ma'i. We'll do a mele ma'i show in the future, but one thing that I do want to get across when it comes to mele ma'i is that it is a very high honor to have a mele written in hopes of your procreation so that your line continues on. You're tuned into Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi here on member-supported Hawaiʻi Public Radio 1. I'm DJ Mermaid, Paige Okamura. We are celebrating Queen Lili'uokalani's birthday, which was last Thursday on September 2nd, by taking a stroll and taking a look at the mele that she wrote or the mele that were written for her. So coming up next, we're going to hear Uncle Eddie Kamai and the Sons of Hawaii with Hana Keoki. And Hana Keoki is a mele that's also known as Kahanu o Hana Keoki, or the scent of Hana Keoki. And it was composed by Lili'uokalani in 1874. It is in the Queen's Songbook, which I encourage you all to explore if you find you want to learn more than what I can talk about in an hour. Also, Louise Lanzalotti this month is celebrating Hawaiian History Month, and every day for Classical Pacific she'll recommend a Hawaiian history book, and the book that she recommended on the 2nd, I believe, was Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen. But there's also the Queen's Songbook, where you can learn all about the mele that Lili'u wrote. But Kahanu o Hanakioki most likely alludes to a property in Palolo that the Queen owned, but it talks about all the different birds, then what they sound like, what they look like, that live in the forest. And then from Hanakioki, we're going to stick with a bird theme. We're going to go into one of my favorite compositions of Lili'u's. It's Manukapalulu. Manukapalulu translates to a quail. And we talked a couple weeks ago about songs that were written for birds that maybe aren't so pretty, aren't so beautiful. Maybe you think a quail is beautiful, but in this particular case, Manukapalulu was written by the Queen, and it was her response to a disparaging mark that was made. And in the chorus, she talks about Kuli au ya oe Manukapalulu, which is basically like saying, be quiet, you quail. And I think if you were to imagine that being said by the Queen herself, be quiet, you quail, you might really get that sass that she's really sticking in there in Manukapalulu. That's going to be performed by Gary Haleamau. You can find a full set list for today's show online at our website at hawaiipublicradio.org, where you can also find the donate button if you support the programming that you're hearing now. And you can also find my email if you ever want to shoot me some feedback. Just go ahead and click the link and let me know.
Nani wale kahi o na o ka manula o ka iwi maka o na nala no hoi ka malula ulu na hele ho I ka lehua ilihia I ke alala o ka hanu o hana ke o kila uni hei ka mana o hila hanu ala o hana ke o Kamakahi manukua hualena lena la e hahai nei I Hawaii na vai haluku luku I Hawaii ilihia I ke ala o ka hanu o hana ke o kila uni hei ka mana o hina hanu ala o hana ke o Au a ke nala I ka waile hua I ka manula oi ho aua elo la a ho I a e ho ola I lai ilihia I ke alala o ka hanu o hana ke o hila uni hei ka mana o hila hanu ala o hana ke o
ka palulu Hana wale mai no I au E a aho I oe I ko mana o A he no I Olelo ana oe, ai pono iho, e ia iho no me oe. Na amakua o I ka poli, e ia olu au ina. Kuli kuli au ia oe manu ka palulu, hana wale mai no I au. E a aho I oe I ko mana o, a he no Pono iho I ko Kamakahi nui I hea ahe ulaku laku o ia no I Kuli kuli au ia oe manu ka palulu Hana wale mai no I au Hea aho I oe I ko mana o A he no A e no I
That was Bob Pauhale Davis, Auntie Noi Lani Kanoho Mahoi, Francis and Lynette Kaopuiki, Alex Cash, and Raymond Kane with Queen Lili'uokalani's composition called Vili Vili Vai, or also Ka Vili Vili Vai, which basically means is twisting water. And by twisting water, the queen meant a lawn sprinkler, because as the moʻolelo goes, as the queen was in Ladana, like on her lanai at Washington Place, she saw a sprinkler going on, something kind of strange, new, unusual for her, in her next door neighbor, Dr. McKibben's yard. And as she was fascinated watching this lawn sprinkler, twist water around, she wrote this song. And it's called Kavili Vila Vai. So while the Queen was writing, I guess we could say high-level, beautiful music about complex things, she also wrote about the everyday things like a lawn sprinkler, which maybe for us is everyday, and for her at the time was something brand new. But you are tuned in to Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi here on Hawaiʻi Public Radio 1, celebrating the Queen's birthday this past September 2nd, last week Thursday. Coming up next, I'm not going to tell you what this song is about because I'm going to let Uncle Robert tell you what it's about. It's Sanoi. It's one of my favorite compositions by Queen Lili'uokalani and Kapeka into Emma Veri's Kawaiʻa Polani here on member-supported HPR 1's Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi. More information and a full set list online at hawaiipublicradio.org/Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi.
In our opinion, the most beautiful and classic Hawaiian music was written by during the period when these islands were ruled by the Kalakawas, the second dynasty of Hawaiian monarchs. All four of them, the two brothers and two sisters, were very, very talented in the field of music. His Majesty Kalakaua, the king, wrote many, many compositions. His sister next to him, the Queen Lili'uokalani, Princess Lili'uokalani, who became queen after his death, wrote the most songs, though. She lived the longest also. Their youngest brother, Lili'u, died at the age of 22. Before he did, though, he wrote some really heavy Hawaiian songs, dealing mostly with making love, with love affairs. And then the youngest sister, very fragile, Princess Likelike, wrote just a few numbers. During the reign of our last queen, Lili'uokalani, the oldest sister, two very prominent members of her court were having a secret love affair, and she was the only one that knew about it. And so she decided to write a song for them. But because of their prominence, she decided to honor that secret and gave them alias names. The woman she called Kapeka, which is just Hawaiian for Elizabeth. So if your name is Lizzie, Kapeka, if you want a Hawaiian name. But for the gentleman, because he was the instigator of the affair, she gave a more interesting name, that being Sanoi, which is comparable to the fog or the mist that sometimes appears over our mountaintops. And like this mist, our friend Sanoi used to appear at Kapeka's quarters and get into every crack and cranny and disappear as quickly as he had arrived. Translated words of our queen would say to all of you that Kapeka asked, "Where are you, Sanoi?" And don't you know that practically drenched in readiness is your favorite lehua flower? Because here I sit, all alone, and I'm just waiting to hear the sound of your voice, that I may obey all of your commands. But it seems that the only answer I have at this time is to simply relax and to breathe so deeply of these fragrant waters that surround me. But when you do arrive, may I expect that we will kiss as only lovers really know how to kiss. And finally there, far in the distance, I can see your shadow, that big body coming towards me. But now that you're here, we have to be so very careful and listen for the sound of Her Majesty, the Queen. And is that the fragrance of her cologne that I smell coming through the window on the far side there? Oh, but never mind. Let's just enjoy being together, because there are still many, many more grains of sand left in the hourglass. So let us enjoy and love until those sands of time run out. The secret love affair of Kapeka and her friend Sanoe.
There's a song that has an interesting origin. It was written in a prison. That prison was the Iolani Palace, and it was written by the late Queen Lili'uokalani. She wrote this song for a place in Waikiki that is now the location of the Holiday Inn Hotel. At one time, over there used to be a beautiful garden, as is expressed in this one song that was written behind the bars.
George Helm singing the Queen's composition of Ku'upua I Pauakalani, sometimes also known just as Pauakalani, probably one of her most well-known compositions. I do agree that I think you all could look up facts about Queen Lili'uokalani very easily, and tonight I wanted to take a look at her music and what she saw and how she expressed herself through those mele. And this is a very important piece of her story because, as you know, Hawaii was illegally overthrown and she was placed under house arrest in her own palace. And while she was in prison in Iolani Palace, the way that she would get news of the outside, because you have to remember this is very pre-social media, pre-internet, was that the newspapers would be snuck into her by John Wilson, whose mother, Evelyn Wilson, was one of the Queen's handmaidens, I believe. But she went into voluntary imprisonment with the Queen. And John would bring the Queen flowers regularly. And these flowers would be wrapped in newspaper, through which the Queen could then read news that she was prohibited to read during her imprisonment. And so she wrote the song as a tribute to John Wilson, whom she held in very high esteem, who brought her news of the world that she was unable to access, or really forbidden from accessing, news about herself, what people were saying about her, what the newspapers were saying about her. John Wilson would go on to become mayor of Honolulu as he would grow older. And so I can't ignore that very big part. And luckily for me, I don't have to, because it's in her music. And that's what we're taking a look at tonight here on this episode dedicated to the Queen of Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi here on Hawaiʻi Public Radio 1. I'm DJ Mermaid, Paige Okamura. You can find more information online at hawaiipublicradio.org/Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi. Something a little lesser known, a composition of the Queen. This is Emma Viri with Kawaiʻa Polani into the Navai Chamber Choir with another of her composition, Punapaya Ala. Ohana's very own Tandy Mackenzie off of the album A Rare Hawaiian Experience. That was Lei Ponimo'i, also known as a carnation lei, credited to the Queen in November of 1874. You're tuned into Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi, celebrating Queen Lili'uokalani's birthday on September 2nd this month. I'm DJ Mermaid, Paige Okamura. I only have a few minutes left with you all, so I want to make sure that we get to my favorite mele composition of the Queen. It's actually, she wrote it when she was very young. Kamehameha V, Lot Kapuaiwa, asked her to write what would be the third of 4 total national anthems for the Kingdom of Hawaii. Interestingly enough, this mele, well, first of all, it's like my favorite of all time. I cry every time. But it's also going to be performed by the Rose Ensemble, which is not a local ensemble, but they did an album. And I thought that for, people outside of Hawaii, Malihini, I thought they did very well. It's beautifully done. So this is the Rose Ensemble with Hemele Lahui Hawaii. We'll also try to squeeze in 1 or 2 more of the Queen's compositions before I hand you over to Sandy Tsukiyama for your evening of Brazilian experience. I'm DJ Mermaid, Paige Okamura, and this is Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi here on Hawaiʻi Public Radio 1.
Oh
That was Ho'okena performing Nohea I Moʻolelo. Moʻolelo was the name for Lili'uokalani's home in Kapalama, which opened with a gala party back in May 1885, where I believe this song debuted. The Kapalama House, Moʻolelo, is now the site of the Queen Lili'uokalani Trust, formerly QLCC, now QLT, right off of the Hoftailing exit. You're tuned into KHPR Honolulu, KKUA Wailuku, KANO Hilo, KHPH Kailua Kona, KIPL Lihue, and KJHF Kuala Pu'u. Collectively, the stations of members supported Hawaiʻi Public Radio 1. I will be handing you over to Sandy Tsukiyama for the Brazilian experience. Big mahalo also to Mana Music Quartet off of their album Queen Lili'uokalani. That's where our bed music tonight came from. I'm DJ Mermaid. Ahui ho kako. Until the next Bridging the Gap and the next Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi.